In this last video, I'm going to discuss the consequences that Hume draws from his view that there's much avoidable natural evil. And so there are two conclusions. First, the design argument is definitely bad. That's the first conclusion he draws. And secondly, the conclusion, as he puts it, is probably God is not good. Given the way we've been talking about God, that would mean that actually God doesn't exist. So, let's remember the world argument, the design argument that Paley has given us. We already saw that the big premise, a well-ordered thing, is either a huge coincidence or created by a powerful intelligence. That's probably false because of the theory of evolution. Hume chooses to criticize the first premise of the design argument, that the world is well-ordered. He says there's avoidable natural evil, and if there is, then the world is not well-ordered, which seems pretty clearly true, that if there is avoidable natural evil, then the world is not so well-ordered. So, what Hume says about this is as follows. He says, I'm skeptic enough to allow that the bad appearances, notwithstanding all my reasonings, may be compatible with such divine attributes as you suppose, but surely they can never prove these attributes. So what he's saying is this. He says, look, it seems to me, and it should seem to you, as best as we can tell, that there is lots of avoidable natural evil. After all, these four circumstances, on the one hand, together cause a lot of natural evil, and yet it certainly seems like at least one of them should be avoidable. Now, maybe you could explain how actually no, these four circumstances are compatible, are necessary, are not avoidable, and are compatible with a good God. But are they evidence for a good God? Do they support the existence of a good God? No, Hume says they definitely do not do that. So maybe they can't disprove the existence of a good God, but Hume says they definitely mean that there's not a lot of evidence in favor of a good God. Then there's the natural evil argument against God's existence. The way Hume puts this is, if a good God exists, there is no avoidable natural evil, and there is avoidable natural evil, so no good God exists. So the conclusion of this is not that God exists, it's that a good God doesn't exist. But given the way we have been talking about God, we can just change this to, if God exists, then there is no avoidable natural evil, and the conclusion being God does not exist. Because we've said, as we've been talking about God, it's part of the definition of God that God is good. So, is this a valid argument? Yes, it is, certainly valid. So the question is it sound? Are all the premises true? Well, from Hume's perspective, certainly the first premise is true. Why? Well, look, when will a being perform an action? Well, if the being can perform the action, and the being knows that the action best promotes its values, then the being will do the action. And if God is good, then God values God does not value avoidable natural evil. God dislikes avoidable natural evil. And if God is all-knowing, God knows what will prevent avoidable natural evil. And if God is all-powerful, then God can do the thing that would prevent avoidable natural evil. So if God exists and is all-powerful and all-knowing and perfectly good, then there would be no avoidable natural evil. The second premise, is there avoidable natural evil? Well, Hume says, as we've seen, he's somewhat uncertain about premise 2 because it involves judgments about how the world could be arranged, and so maybe the natural evil that there is around is avoidable, but probably he thinks P2 is true, there is avoidable natural evil, that's probably the case, and if that's so, then also the conclusion is probably true. So we can put it together, summarize Hume's view like this. The four circumstances together produce much natural evil. The combination of the four circumstances is avoidable, and that means that there's much avoidable natural evil. At least, almost certainly. So that means that the design argument definitely fails, and it means that there's probably no God. Or as Hume puts the point, there is no good, powerful, intelligent God, but given the way we've been describing God, that just means there is no God. And in fact, that's probably what Hume in the end believed. It's just he had to be a little bit cagey about it, because if he had been too explicit, he would have gotten in a lot of trouble. So that's Hume's arguments, that his criticism of the design argument, and his argument that probably there is no God.